The place card with my name on it was gone. I want you to understand the smallness of that first, because everything else grew out of it. Not a slap, not a shout, nothing you could point to and call cruelty in a court of law. A little rectangle of cream cardstock with my name printed in navy blue, gone from the head table, and in its place, a woman I had met exactly twice, settling into the chair that should have been mine, smoothing her dress the way you smooth a thing you have decided to keep. 400 people filled that ballroom. The chandeliers were the kind that throw light like moving water.
Looking out at
There
this
was a string
distinguished
quartet
assembly, I am
somewhere
reminded
behind
of the
noise
legacy we are
and the smell
tasked
of
to
lilies
uphold.
and
A
warm
legacy
bread
built on
and other
courage,
people's
integrity,
perfume.
and honor.
And I stood at the head table in my dinner dress white uniform, with my miniature medals catching the light. And I watched my husband pull out my chair for another woman. "You understand, don't you?" Sterling said to me. It was not really a question. He did not even lower his voice. Optics. I understood a great many things in that moment. I understood that he had planned this, that it had a shape he had drawn in advance. I understood that the two men across the table, in their good dark suits, were the audience he had built the evening for.
As outlined in these directives, the operational timeline remains firm.
And that the dress
We will
she
proceed
wore
as
had come
scheduled,
off a
ensuring
charge
all
on a
protocols are
statement I had
strictly
signed for
observed.
without reading, and that my husband of 13 years had just told a Navy steward, in front of everyone whose opinion he had ever wanted, that I would be standing tonight. The Navy had spent 21 years teaching me how to hold still while something exploded. So I held still. What Sterling did not see, because he was busy watching the room for the men he wanted to impress, was the officer in dress whites at a table 2 rows back who had just set down his glass and risen to his
Gentlemen,
feet.
this
He
confirms
did
our
not see the
suspicion.
crowd begin to part
The route
around that
highlighted
man,
here
like
matches the
water
financial
around the bow of a
discrepancies we
ship.
found in the global
He never
markets
once looked
data.
behind him. But let me back up a little. The afternoon of the gala, I stood in the bedroom of my grandmother's house on the Newport shore and pressed my uniform jacket on the same board she had used for 50 years. It is a small house, gray shingles gone silver with salt, a porch that faces the water, a kitchen that has not been remodeled since 1974. My grandmother left it to me in 2015.
As you can
my
see in
name
Section
alone,
3,
and
the
every board
transfer
of it
occurred on
is
the
the truest
15th.
thing I own.
I have the documentation
the
right
ocean
here
through
to
the open
confirm the
window.
source of the funds.
I remember thinking that I had a good life, and then I remember the small, cold place under that thought, the place I had been refusing to look at for months, and I turned
Please
the jacket
accept
over
this
on the
formal
board
apology.
and did not look at it either.
The disciplinary
On the
action
bed
against you
lay
has
the
been
letter.
fully rescinded,
I had read it
and your
11
record is
times.
cleared.
The Navy has a formal way of telling you that your whole career has led somewhere, and the formal way is a screening board result printed on a single page. I had been selected
I hope this
for
brings
command.
you the closure you
In a
sought.
matter of months, I would
Know
stand
that I
on the
always
deck of a
admired your
guided missile
courage,
destroyer
even when I
and take her
disagreed
as
with
my
your
own.
methods.
21
Goodbye,
years
Commander.
from a nervous ensign at the academy to this. I had not told Sterling. Somewhere in the last 2 years, he had stopped asking what I did, and I had stopped offering, and the letter had come, and I had read it alone at the kitchen table with the ocean going on outside, and no one at all to tell. There had been a time when I told him everything. When we married in 2013, he used to meet my ship at the pier when I came home, standing at the front of the crowd with a ridiculous hand-lettered sign, and I would come down the brow and he would lift me off my feet in front of the whole squadron.
Attention all
He
hands.
liked the Navy then.
Effective
or
immediately,
he liked
per
the
the
idea
commander
of
of the fleet,
the
we will alter
uniform,
course to the
the
new
ceremony,
rendezvous point.
The way
Our mission
people
parameters
straightened up
remain
when I walked
unchanged.
into a room. He liked to tell strangers at parties that his wife drove warships. I did not yet understand that a man can love the light you throw on him without ever once loving you. The change was slow, the way erosion is slow. You never see the cliff move. You only notice one day that the fence you built has half fallen into the sea. Somewhere around the third reinvention of himself, when marketing became real estate and real estate became the vague and glamorous world of defense consulting, he began to talk less about what I did and more about what I could do for him, who I knew, what doors a Navy commander's spouse might open. I told myself I was imagining it. I told myself that every marriage goes quiet in places, that we were both busy, that the distance was geography and not the heart. I had been trained my whole career to hold a ship on course through weather, to trust the
Don't
instruments
worry,
over
I'm
the
right
sick
here.
feeling in my stomach, and I had
Everything
turned that
is
same
going to
discipline
work
on my
out
own
fine.
marriage and used it, I see now, to sail straight through every warning I was ever given. By this spring, he was a stranger who shared my address. We passed in the kitchen like polite tenants. He traveled. I deployed. When I told him 3 weeks before the gala that I had news, real news, he had said, without looking up from his phone,
Commander,
that he had a
based
great
on the
deal on his
findings,
plate just
the
now.
court recommends
could
immediate
it keep?
disciplinary action
So
under
it
Article
kept.
15.
The biggest thing that had ever happened to me sat folded
We
in
are
a drawer,
continuing
and I
to
carried it
monitor the
alone, and I
situation
told myself that
closely
was normal too.
and will provide
I had become
updates
very
as
good
they
at telling
become
myself
available.
things. My phone rang. Tessa. "Tell me you are wearing the whites," she said before I had finished saying hello. Tessa Kwan and I had been ensigns together, two terrified young officers on the same cruiser in 2007, and 20 years later, she was a lieutenant commander with a laugh you could hear across a hangar bay and the only person alive who called me Addie. She was going to be at table 9 tonight. I was, according to my husband, at the head table. "I am wearing the whites," I said. "Good, because I heard something." Her voice dropped into the register she used for gossip and for warnings, which with Tessa were often the same register. "The Foundation is honoring somebody big tonight. Nobody will say who. There is a whole program, apparently, sealed until the night of." "It is a charity gala, Tessa. They are honoring a check." "Wear the whites anyway, Addie. Whatever it is tonight, wear the whites." I laughed and told her I would save her a dance, and I hung up, and a text arrived
Looking
from
out at this
Sterling
distinguished
almost the same
assembly,
second,
I am
as
reminded
if
of the
two them
legacy
had
we
been
are
assigned
tasked to
opposite
uphold.
ends of my
A
evening.
legacy built on courage,
"Arrive
integrity,
at 8,
and honor.
it said. "Separate cars, easier logistics. Sit where the steward puts you." I read it twice. Easier logistics. We had been arriving separately to things for most of a year now. I had told myself it was the deployments, the different schedules, the way two busy lives drift into different rooms. I finished pressing the jacket. I pinned the miniature medals in their careful row, the small, bright history of a life he had stopped asking about. I reread the command letter one more time, folded it into my clutch for no reason I could name, except that I wanted it near me.
As
And I drove
outlined
to
in
the
these
Gala alone
directives,
with
the
windows
operational
down and the
timeline
salt
remains
air
firm.
coming in off the
We will
water.
proceed as scheduled,
I
ensuring
did not
all
know I was
protocols
driving
are strictly
toward the end of my
observed.
marriage. I thought I was driving toward a rubber chicken dinner and a speech about scholarships. I have thought many times since about how often the worst nights of our lives arrive dressed as ordinary ones, wearing their hair nicely, smelling of lilies. The hotel was one of the grand old ones on the harbor, all marble and brass, and men in white gloves at the doors. I gave my keys to the valet. I climbed the wide steps, and I could hear the room before I saw it.
Gentlemen, this confirms our
particular roar of
suspicion.
several hundred
The route
people
highlighted
being
here
charming at
matches
one
the
another.
financial
I found the
discrepancies we
ballroom.
found in the global
I found the
markets
head
data.
table. I did not find my name. I stood at the edge of the head table with a glass of water sweating in my hand, and I looked for the little cream card with the navy letters. And it was not there. And in the seat where it should have been sat Bianca Fenn. I had met her twice. Once at a summer party where Sterling had introduced her as a consultant he was working with, and once, briefly, at his office, where she had looked at me with the frank, assessing gaze of a woman pricing
As you can
a piece
see in
of
Section
furniture
3,
she
the
has
transfer
already
occurred
decided
on
to
the
replace.
15th.
She was
I have the
34.
documentation
She was
right
wearing
here
a
to
deep
confirm the
green
source of
dress
the
that I
funds.
recognized because I had seen the charge for it, $1,100, at a boutique in Boston, on a statement I had glanced at and initialed because I
Please
trusted the man
accept
I
this
was
formal
married to.
apology.
"There
The
you
disciplinary
are," Sterling
action
said,
against you has
appearing
been
at my
fully
elbow,
rescinded,
smelling of
and
a
your record
cologne
is
I had
cleared.
not bought him. He was 46 and handsome, in the way of men who have decided handsomeness is a strategy, the silver coming in at the temples on purpose.
I hope this brings
He
you
had
the closure
reinvented
you
himself
sought.
3 times in the
Know
years
that I
knew
always
him,
admired your
from marketing
courage,
to real
even when I
estate to this
disagreed with your
newest
methods.
incarnation, the one he
Goodbye,
liked best,
Commander.
the defense consultant, the fixer, the man who knew people. Tonight he had a badge that said his name and a company I had never once heard him mention. "Sterling Murr," I said. "My card is gone." "Right, about that." He steered me a half step back from the table, one hand at my elbow, the gesture of a man moving a chair out of a doorway. "Bianca and I have some people we need to work tonight. It is a working evening for us. We put her up here where the conversation is. You will be more comfortable back with the regular tables anyway. You always say
Attention
these
all
things bore
hands.
you."
Effective immediately,
Bianca
per
turned
the
in my
commander of
chair
the fleet,
and
we will
gave me a
alter course
smile
to the
that
new
had been
rendezvous
practiced
point.
in a mirror.
Our mission parameters remain
"You
unchanged.
understand," she said. "It's a working evening for us." Us. There it was, laid on the table between the water glasses, a whole word with a company inside it. He had built an entire U.S., and us with a strategy and $1,100 dresses. And he had left me to find out about it standing up. The 2 men in the dark suits watched all of this with the careful blankness of people who can smell something and have decided for now not to name it. Sterling turned to them and put his hand flat on Bianca's shoulder, a small, casual ownership. "Gentlemen, my partner, the brains of the operation, honestly. Bianca handles the relationships. I handle the access." The older of the 2 investors, a silver-haired man with kind eyes that did not match the company he was keeping tonight, tried to be decent about it.
Don't worry,
He
I'm right
rose
here.
and offered me his hand across the table.
Everything is going to work out
You must be
fine.
very proud of your service, he said. The way people say it when they do not know what else to say to a uniform. I am, I said, and I shook his hand, and that was all Sterling would allow. She does not like to talk shop at these things, he said smoothly, and steered the man's attention back to Bianca, who had begun
Commander,
to describe,
based
in
on the
confident
findings,
and largely
the court
invented
recommends
terms,
immediate
the sort of
disciplinary
contact
action
Kane
under
Fenn's
Article
strategic could
15.
open. I stood beside the table and listened
We
to
are
my husband's
continuing to
mistress
monitor
promise
the
two
situation
strangers
closely
access to a
and will
world she
provide
had read about in a
updates as they
brochure,
become available.
And I understood, slowly, that the access she was selling was me. My clearance, my rank, my name. They were selling me across that table while I stood next to it, holding a glass of water. Across the ballroom, at table 9, I found Tessa. She had turned in her chair, and she was watching the head table with a stillness that was not like her at all, her wine glass halfway to her mouth and forgotten there. She had seen me standing. She had seen the woman in my seat. I gave her the smallest shake of my head. Stay there. Do not. It is all right. And she stayed. But she set the glass down, and she did not take her eyes off me. And I loved her for both those things at once. Sterling's mother arrived then, because of course she did. Cordelia Kane, 71, in gray silk and pearls, a woman who had spent her whole life climbing toward rooms like this one, and had never quite believed she had arrived in any of them. She looked at me standing and at Bianca sitting, and she read the arrangement instantly and approved of it.
Looking out
Adeline,
at this distinguished
she said,
assembly,
kissing the air
I am
by my
reminded
cheek,
of the legacy
"You
we are
do look
tasked to
tired.
uphold.
All that time at
A
sea,
legacy built
it
on
ages a
courage,
person."
integrity, and honor.
She settled one hand on the back of Bianca's chair next to her son's. "She is married to the Navy, you know," she said. "To no one, to everyone, the family line, well rehearsed over many holidays. It was always going to be the Navy first." Bianca laughed at something and touched Sterling's arm and looked up at me over the rim of her glass. "You really do not mind, do you?" she said, pitched just for me under the noise of the room. "He said you would not. He said you never make a fuss." She smiled. "It's refreshing, honestly. Most wives would be a problem."
As
I looked
outlined
at
in
her
these
for a moment.
directives, the
I thought of all
operational
the things I
timeline
could
remains
say,
firm.
and I said none of
We
them,
will proceed as
because I had
scheduled,
learned a long
ensuring
time
all
ago
protocols
on a
are
bridge
strictly
wing at 3 in
observed.
the morning with the contact closing fast and a green officer of the deck panicking beside me, that the calmest voice in the room is the one that ends up in charge of it. So I only said, "Enjoy the chicken," and I turned my face back toward the front. And I felt her not knowing what to do with that, which was worth more than anything sharper would have been. "Don't make a scene," Sterling said to me quietly, still smiling for the men. "Nobody at this table works for the
Gentlemen,
government.
this confirms
Nobody
our
here is impressed by
suspicion.
the outfit.
The route
Just be
highlighted here
gracious for
matches
one
the
night,
financial
Addie.
discrepancies
Can you
we
do that
found
for
in the
me?
global markets data.
I have been asked since why I did not walk out. Why I did not throw the water in his face, or say the true thing, or simply turn on my heel and leave. I have thought about it a great deal. The honest answer is that I did leave, in the only way that would ever matter, but not yet, and not in the way you think. In that moment, I did something that looked, from the outside, like nothing. I took out my phone. I did not call anyone. There was
As
no
you
one
can
to
see
call
in
who could
Section
fix a thing
3,
like
the
this.
transfer
And
occurred on
anyway,
the
I was not
15th.
looking to be rescued.
I have the
I
documentation
opened
right
the
here
camera,
to
and while
confirm
the
the
men
source
laughed
of the
at something
funds.
Sterling said, I photographed the head table, the place setting in front of Bianca, where a glossy trifold brochure sat propped against the water glass.
Please accept
Kane
this
Fenn's
formal
strategic, it
apology.
said, in a serious
The disciplinary
font, over a
action
photograph
against
of a
you has been
handshake.
fully rescinded,
I photographed
and
the
your
business
record
card
is
one of the
cleared.
investors had set down beside his plate. I photographed the empty place where my name had been. I did it the way I had been trained to gather evidence at sea, calmly,
I hope this brings you the
completely,
closure
without
you
deciding
sought.
yet what any of it
Know
meant.
that I always
He
admired your
thought my
courage,
silence meant
even when I
surrender.
disagreed with your
My
methods.
silence was me taking inventory.
Goodbye, Commander.
Then the lights went down for the program. A spotlight found the dais at the front of the room, and the MC, a foundation man in a good tuxedo, stepped up with a leather folder and tapped the microphone. And 400 people turned their chairs to face front, and I stood at the edge of the head table with my husband's hand still resting on another woman's chair. And I thought, at least in the dark, no one can see me standing. "Ladies and gentlemen," the MC said, "every year this foundation sets aside one evening to honor not a donor, but a life of service. This year, our honoree exemplifies
Attention all
everything
hands.
we mean by that
Effective
word."
immediately. Per the
I was
commander of
not
the
really
fleet,
listening.
we will alter
I
course
was
to the
watching
new
Bianca
rendezvous
lean
point.
to whisper
Our mission
something to
parameters
Sterling,
remain unchanged.
watching Cordelia beam at the two of them, thinking about how I would get through the next 2 hours and then drive home to my grandmother's house and figure out, in the quiet, what exactly my life had become. "The officer we honor tonight," the MC said, "has served this nation for 21 years at sea. She has just been selected by a board of her peers to command a guided missile destroyer of this fleet. The word she landed in the room like a dropped tray. I felt the change before I understood it. The way you feel a ship's engines shift under your feet a half second before the announcement comes over the 1MC. Heads began to turn, not toward the dais, toward the head table, toward me. "Please understand," the MC went on, and I could hear the smile in his voice now. Our honoree did not know the full shape of tonight. She was told she was attending a dinner. The Navy is not
Don't
always
worry,
good at
I'm right
surprises,
here.
but we did want to try.
Everything
Commander,
is
would
going
you
to
come
work out
forward?
fine.
At the flag table near the front, an officer in dinner dress white stood up. 2 silver stars rode the shoulder boards of his white jacket. I knew him. Rear Admiral Harlan Wexford had sat on the board that screened me for command, had known my record for a decade, had once, years ago, told a wardroom full of officers
Commander,
that I was the finest
based on the
ship handler
findings,
he had trained.
the court recommends
He rose,
immediate
and
disciplinary
he looked down the
action
length
under
of that
Article
ballroom,
15.
straight at me, and he began to walk. A young
We are
officer reached me
continuing to
first.
monitor the situation
Lieutenant
closely
Nakamura, the
and will
Admiral's
provide
flag aide,
updates as they
29 years
become
old
available.
And moving with the crisp purpose of a man who has been handed an errand he is proud to run. He stopped in front of me, and he did not so much as glance at Sterling or Bianca or Cordelia. He looked only at me. "Ma'am," he said, "the Admiral asks that you join him on the dais. The evening is for you." For the first time all night, I understood why Tessa had told me to wear the whites. I set down the water glass. I did not look at my husband. I stepped away from the head table, and I walked up the center of that room toward the dais, and 400 people rose to their feet as I passed. Some of them because they knew, in their bones, what a command at sea costs. Some of them for the simpler reason that when a room stands, you stand. The crowd parted the way water parts, and I walked through it in my grandmother's country in the uniform my husband had called an outfit, and I passed my own empty chair, and the woman sitting in it, and the man whose hand was still resting on the back of it as though he had forgotten
Looking
it was
out
there.
at this distinguished assembly,
myself
I am
look at him
reminded
then,
of the legacy
just
we are
once.
tasked to uphold.
Sterling's face
A
was doing
legacy built on
arithmetic.
courage,
I watched
integrity,
him add
and
it up in
honor.
real time. The she, the command, the admiral, the standing room. The 2 investors he had brought to be dazzled by his access, now on their feet applauding the woman he had told to stand in the corner. I watched the number come out wrong for him, over and over, as if he could keep running the sum and get a different total. Admiral Wexford met me at the front. He is a tall man with a weathered face and a quiet voice, and he leaned in close so that only I could hear him. "Commander Ashford," he said. "My apologies. It took me a moment to reach you. It should not have."
As outlined in these directives,
said it
the
looking back at the
operational
head table,
timeline remains
and
firm.
I understood
We will
that he had
proceed as
seen
scheduled, ensuring
that from
all
the flag
protocols
table
are
he had
strictly
watched a
observed.
civilian move his officer out of her chair, and that a 2-star admiral had just crossed a ballroom, in part to undo it. He straightened and he turned to the microphone, and the room went quiet in the particular way a room does when a flag officer decides to speak. "I have known this officer for 10 years, Admiral Wexford said. He was not reading from anything. I sat on the board that selected her for command.
Gentlemen,
tell you
this
that it was
confirms
not
our
a close
suspicion.
call.
The
In
route
21
highlighted here
years at
matches
sea,
the
she
financial
has done
discrepancies
every
we
hard
found in the
job
global
this Navy
markets
has,
data.
in every kind of weather, and she has done it without ever once asking to be noticed for it. That is rare. Anyone can be brave when the cameras are on. It is a different and a harder thing to be excellent for 2 decades in the dark, at sea, where no one is watching but the people whose lives depend on you getting it right." He looked down the length of the room, and I understood that he was, very deliberately, looking at the head table, at my husband, at
As
the
you can
empty
see in
chair.
Section 3,
The
the
officer who
transfer
takes
occurred
command
on
of
the
the United
15th.
States warship
I
holds
have the
lives of
documentation right
300
here to
sailors
confirm
in
the
her
source
2
of the
hands,
funds.
he said. "We do not give that to people who look good in a room. We give it to the ones who are the same in the storm as they are at the pier. Ladies and
Please
gentlemen,
accept
it is
this
my
formal
honor
apology.
to present the next
The
commanding
disciplinary
officer of a
action
guided
against
missile
you has
destroyer
been
of
fully
this fleet,
rescinded,
Commander
and your record
Adeline
is cleared."
Ashford. And the room came up. All of it, all 400, the admirals and the donors and the strangers, and the 2 investors my husband had brought to be impressed by
I hope
his
this brings
access
you the
were
closure
on
you
their
sought.
feet, with the rest
Know
of
that I
them,
always admired your
clapping for the
courage,
woman he
even
had
when I
told to
disagreed
stand
with
in
your
the corner.
methods.
I stood in
Goodbye,
the light
Commander.
beside a 2-star admiral, and I watched, over the top of the applause, my husband's face. He was not clapping. His hand was still on the back of my chair, the one with his mistress in it, and he had the look of a man watching a building he owns come down brick by brick and not understanding, even now, that he was the one who lit the fuse. I would like to tell you that I felt triumphant. I did not then. What I felt, standing under that light with the applause washing over me, was a strange, cold clarity. The feeling you get when a fog you did not know you were sailing in suddenly lifts, and
Attention,
you can see
all
exactly
hands.
where you are,
Effective
and
immediately.
exactly how
Per
far
the
you
commander
still
of
have
the
to
fleet,
go.
we will alter course
Somewhere
to the new
behind me,
rendezvous
my
point.
marriage was
Our
ending.
mission parameters
I could
remain
feel
unchanged.
it ending, the way you feel a line part under load. And in front of me was a ship, and a whole life, and the long, unglamorous work of untangling myself from a man I had just watched try to erase me in a public room. The applause did not fix anything. It only turned the lights on so I could finally see the mess. The program ended. There were photographs, the Admiral and I, the foundation board, handshakes from strangers who told me their sons were at the academy and their daughters were thinking about it. And in the swirl of it, as the room broke back into its 100 separate conversations, a small woman in a black uniform-like dress touched my elbow. Gloriana Petit, the Foundation's event coordinator, 68 years old, reading glasses on a beaded chain and 40 years of galas behind her eyes. "Commander," she said, "might I have
Don't
a
worry,
private
I'm
word?"
right here.
She drew me toward
Everything
a service
is going to
corridor off
work
the
out
ballroom,
fine.
Quieter, smelling of coffee urns and floor wax, and she reached into a leather folio and drew out a piece of paper and pressed it into my hand. It was the original seating chart, the master one, and there at the head table, in the coordinator's own neat hand, was my name. Commander Ashford, guest of honor.
Commander,
Seat
based
1.
on the findings, the
That
court
is the
recommends
chart I
immediate
built.
disciplinary
3 weeks ago,
action
she
under
said,
Article 15.
This afternoon, a gentleman found my steward.
We
and
are
paid him
continuing to
in
monitor
cash
the
to
situation
move your car
closely
and
and will
seat a Miss
provide
Fenn
updates
at the
as
head
they become
table
available.
instead. My steward is young, and he did not know what to do with a well-dressed man handing him money. So he did it, and then he came and found me, because he is a good boy, and it sat wrong with him. Her eyes were sharp behind the glasses. I kept the original. I have kept a great many originals in 40 years, dear. People are forever trying to change the chart at the last minute, and I have learned that the first version is almost always the true one. I looked at the paper. My name, guest of honor, seat 1. The seat my husband had given away to his mistress with a wave of 2 fingers. "Thank you," I said. It came out steadier than I felt. "He did not know," she said gently, and I understood she meant that Sterling had not known I was the honoree. He had staged my humiliation for an audience without ever realizing that the whole evening had been built, in secret, around me. He had tried to put me in the corner of a room that existed because of me. As I stepped back toward the
Looking
ballroom,
out at this
the young
distinguished
steward found
assembly,
me.
I am reminded
The
of
boy
the
in the white
legacy we are
jacket, the one
tasked to
Sterling had
uphold.
waved at like
A legacy
servant.
built on
He was
courage,
holding his cover
integrity,
in both
and honor.
hands, turning it around and around, and his face was miserable. "Ma'am," he said. "Commander, I should not have moved your card. He gave me money and he said it was fine, that you would not mind, and I knew it was wrong the second I did it. I told Miss Petite, I am sorry. I am truly sorry." He could not have been more than 20. I remembered being 20 in a uniform, terrified of doing the wrong thing in front of important people, learning the hard way that the important people are often the ones you should worry about the least. "What
As
is your
outlined in
name?"
these
I
directives,
asked
the
him.
operational
"Petty
timeline remains
Officer
firm.
Diaz, ma'am."
We will proceed as scheduled,
"Petty Officer
ensuring
Diaz,"
all
I said.
protocols are strictly
You did the right
observed.
thing the moment it counted. You told the truth to the one person who could act on it. That is the whole job most days. Do not carry this. He straightened, and something eased in his young face, and he said, "Aye, ma'am." And I watched him walk back to his post, standing a little taller, and it was the first thing all night that made me feel like myself again. And then, still standing at the edge of my own party, my phone buzzed against my palm. It was a banking alert.
Gentlemen,
I've been ignoring
this
them for
confirms
weeks,
our
the way you
suspicion.
ignore a smoke detector
The route
chirping in
highlighted
another
here
room,
matches the
needing to
financial
get to it.
discrepancies we
This
found
one
in the
I read.
global markets data.
Payment past due, it said. Home equity line of credit. And an amount that made the floor tilt under me, $185,000. A home equity line I had never opened, against a house that was mine alone, my grandmother's house, the truest thing I owned. Tessa found me a minute later, because Tessa always finds me. She took one look at my face, at the phone, at the seating chart still in my other
As
hand.
you can see in Section
And she did
3,
not ask
the
a single
transfer
question.
occurred on the 15th.
She got my keys from the
I have the
valet and she drove me
documentation
home
right
along
here
the
to
dark
confirm
shore
the
road
source
with
of
the
the
windows
funds.
down, and she did not fill the silence, which is the rarest and kindest thing a loud person can do for you. Halfway home, she spoke, just once. "Whatever
Please
it is,"
accept this
she said,
formal
eyes on the
apology.
road.
The
"You are
disciplinary
not doing
action
it
against
alone.
you has
I
been
want that on
fully
the record
rescinded,
before you say
and your
anything
record is
sensible
cleared.
about not wanting to be a burden." "Noted," I said, and my voice cracked on the one word. and she reached over without looking and squeezed my hand once.
I hope this brings you the closure you sought.
And put both hands
Know
back
that
on
I
the
always
wheel,
admired your
and that was
courage,
the entire
even when I
conversation,
disagreed with your methods.
And it was enough.
Goodbye,
At
Commander.
the house, we sat at my grandmother's kitchen table under the light that has hummed since 1974, and I laid 3 things out in a row on the old wood. The brochure for Kane Fen Strategic, the original seating chart with my name on it, and the phone with the alert still glowing on the screen. $185,000 against a house he did not own, on a line of credit signed. The bank would later tell me, buy me. I photographed the 3 of them in a row. Addie, Tessa said quietly, what is all this? I don't know yet, I said.
Attention all
going to know.
hands. Effective
I had a
immediately,
choice,
per the commander of the
sitting
fleet,
there.
we will alter
I
course
could
to the
cry,
new rendezvous
or I
point.
could count.
Our mission
I
parameters
come
remain
from a line
unchanged.
of women who count. My grandmother kept 40 years of household ledgers in a shoebox in the closet upstairs. Every egg and every nail. And when my grandfather's business partner tried to cheat her after he died, she opened that shoebox and she counted, and she won. I opened a new folder on my laptop that night, and I named it with the date, and I put the 3 photographs in it, and I began, quietly, to count. The ocean was loud through the window. The house was very quiet. The first folder had 3 entries. It would not stay that small for long. The next morning I called a lawyer. Lillian Sato had been recommended by a JAG friend as the person you want when a civilian spouse has done something with money. She was 49, precise, with a way of listening that made you slow down and put your facts in order before you spoke. I sat in her office 2
Don't
days
worry,
after the Gala
I'm right
with
here.
the bank documents I had pulled.
Everything is
the
going to
equity
work
line,
out
the
fine.
signature page, and my own service records. And I watched her lay them side by side on her desk and go very still. When were you at sea in February? She said. The whole month. We were underway from the 3rd to the 26th. There is a log. There is always a log. She tapped the signature
Commander,
page.
based on the
This equity
findings,
line was
the court
executed on
recommends
February
immediate
14th.
disciplinary action
Notarized,
under
it
Article
says.
15.
Your signature. She looked up over the papers.
We are continuing
Was it
to
your
monitor
signature?
the situation
No.
closely
You
and
are
will
certain.
provide updates
I was
as
in
they
the middle
become
of the
available.
Atlantic Ocean on February the 14th, I said. I was not in a bank in Rhode Island signing away my grandmother's house. There are 300 sailors and a ship's log that will say so. Lillian Sato allowed herself a small, cold smile. The smile of a professional who has just watched an opponent step on the exact rake she expected to be there. Then this is not your signature, she said. This is a story about your signature. Those are 2 very different things, Commander, and the difference between them is a felony. She walked me through what it was and was not. It was not a debt I owed. A forged instrument binds no one who did not sign it. It was not something I had to pay, or fight, or lie awake over. What it was evidence, the first hard link in a chain, and she told me to keep doing exactly what I had already been doing on instinct. Document, photograph, order things, and above all, do not confront him. Let the paper talk. Men like this, she said, and I understood she had met a great many of them, are not caught by anger.
Looking out at this
Anger they
distinguished
know exactly
assembly,
how to
I am
handle.
reminded of the
Cry at
legacy
them
we
and
are
they will
tasked to
comfort you.
uphold.
Shout at
A
them
legacy
and they will
built
call
on
you
courage,
unstable.
integrity, and
They
honor.
are caught by paper. Bring me the paper and keep your voice down, and let him keep believing you are exactly as small as he needs you to be. I brought her the paper. Over the next 2 weeks, the chain tightened, link by link, and I want to tell it to you the way it actually happened, because the shape of it matters. It did not come all at once. It came the way the tide comes, 1 cold inch at a time, until you look down and the water is already at your knees and you never once heard it arrive. The LLC came first. Kane Fen Strategic formed the previous
As outlined in these
November,
directives,
exact
the
month
operational
I would
timeline
come to
remains
realize
firm.
that the
We will
affair had
proceed as
begun.
scheduled, ensuring
2
all
members,
protocols are strictly
Lillian
observed.
said, tapping the formation page. Equal shares. Your husband and Miss Fen formed in November. She looked at me. Does November mean anything to you? I did the arithmetic out loud. The affair started in November. My friend Tessa saw them together at a conference and told me, and I did not believe her. I told her she was seeing things. I told her Sterling would never. I heard my own voice go flat. She was right.
Gentlemen,
She is
this
always
confirms
right.
our suspicion.
And I spent a month
The
being
route
quietly
highlighted
angry
here
at her
matches
for
the
it.
financial
For making me
discrepancies we
look.
found in the global markets
Write
data.
that down for me, Lillian said gently. When she told you what she said, the date if you can find it, it matters. A jury, if it ever comes to that, likes a timeline it can hold in one hand. She slid a legal pad across the desk, and I wrote it down, my friend's warning and my own refusal to hear it, and it steadied me. The way counting always steadies me, to put the thing in order on a page. The money came next, The $185,000
As you can see in Section 3, the transfer occurred on the 15th.
In 3 transfers
I have the
into
documentation
account
right
that
here to
strategic.
confirm the source
And
of
it
the
had
funds.
company there. Over the same 8 months, $41,000 had drained out of the joint checking account Sterling and I kept for the house, in amounts small enough that I had never noticed.
Please accept this
400
formal
here,
apology.
$1,200 there.
The disciplinary
and every
action
dollar of
against
it
you
had
has
gone
been
to
fully
the same
rescinded,
place.
and your
He had
record
been
is
funding
cleared.
his new life and his new partner with my grandmother's house and our shared account, while telling a room full of strangers that I was married to the Navy and did not
I
understand
hope this
these
brings you
things.
the closure you sought.
He did not hide it
Know
well,
that I always
said
admired
Nathaniel
your
Brandt,
courage,
the
even when I
forensic
disagreed
accountant
with your
Lillian
methods.
brought in, a heavy-set
Goodbye,
man
Commander.
of 52, with the patience of someone who reads bank statements for a living and honestly enjoys it. He spread the reconstruction across the conference table, a map of arrows, every dollar with a beginning and an end. He hit it fast, which is a different thing. Fast is what people do when they are working against a deadline, and fast always leaves fingerprints. He looked at me over his glasses. What was his deadline, Commander? Do you know? I did know by then. I had found it in the texts. They came out in Discovery, the messages between Sterling and Bianca.
Attention
and
all
Lillian read
hands.
the worst of them aloud
Effective
to me
immediately,
in her
per
office
the
because she
commander of
said
the
I should
fleet,
hear
we
the
will alter
ugliest
course
one
to the new
once
rendezvous
in a
point.
safe
Our
room
mission parameters
from a
remain
friendly
unchanged.
voice before I ever heard it anywhere else. Most of it was the ordinary ugliness of an affair, and I will not repeat that part because it is not the point of the story, and because those two do not deserve the space in it. But one message was the whole architecture of the thing, laid bare in Sterling's own words. She'll be underway in July, he had written. Back in the spring. She won't fight it. By the time she surfaces, the house is sold and the accounts are closed and it's done. She's married to the Navy. She won't even notice until it's over. He had built his entire plan on one assumption, that I would be at sea and silent and gone, and that my devotion to the very thing he mocked would be the tool he used to rob me. He was going to file for divorce, timed to my deployment, sell my grandmother's house out from under me with a forged line of credit, empty the accounts
Don't worry,
into
I'm
a
right
company
here.
he owned with his mistress,
Everything is
and be
going
gone
to work out
before I ever
fine.
came back to shore. He was right about one thing, I told Lillian. I would have been underway. And wrong, she said. About every other thing a person can be wrong about. There was a near miss in there, a night I have to tell you about, because it was the closest I came to doing it the wrong way. About 10 days after
Commander,
the gala, Sterling
based
came
on
to
the
house.
findings,
He had
the
figured
court
out that
recommends
something had
immediate
shifted.
disciplinary
A man who
action
forges a
under
document
Article
develops
15.
a sense for when the floor is beginning to
We are
move under
continuing
him.
to monitor
He
the
knocked on the door
situation
of my
closely
grandmother's house
and will
at 8 in the
provide
evening,
updates
and I let
as
him
they
in
become available.
because Lillian had told me exactly what to do if he came and exactly what not to do. He was reasonable. That was the awful part. He sat at the kitchen table where I had laid out the evidence, though he did not know that. And he was warm and rueful and reasonable, the man I had married, the good version of himself that he could still put on like a good jacket. I think we both know this has run its course, he said. There is no reason to make it ugly. You always land on your feet, Addie. You are the most capable person I have ever met. A compliment, sliding toward a knife. Let's just be adults about the house. It's a lot of house for one person. We sell it, we split it, we shake hands, we move on. No lawyers, no drama. For both our sakes, let's keep this private. I let the silence sit. Silence, I have found, is a thing most people cannot bear, and Sterling could bear it least of all. He filled it exactly as I knew he would.
Looking out at this distinguished
The house was
assembly,
never
I am
really a
reminded of the
marital
legacy
asset.
we are
I know
tasked to
that,
uphold.
he said,
A legacy
waving a
built
hand
on
as though giving
courage,
me a gift.
integrity, and honor.
Your grandmother's place. Sentimental. I understand. But the equity in it now, that is a different conversation. There is real money sitting in those walls, Addie, and it is doing nothing at all. He smiled. I have someone who could move it. Quietly. You would not even have to lift a finger. There it was. He was talking about the very equity line he had already forged, feeling around the edges of it, testing whether I knew, dressing the theft up as a favor he was offering me. I kept my face still. 21 years of standing watches had built me a
As
face
outlined
that
in these
gives nothing
directives,
away,
the operational
and I gave him
timeline
nothing.
remains firm.
I
We will
think
proceed
about
as
it,
scheduled,
I said.
ensuring all protocols
Something
are strictly
crossed his
observed.
expression then. A flicker, gone almost before it arrived. He had expected tears, or a fight, or the pleading he knew how to manage. He had not expected a wall. For just a second, the reasonable mask slipped, and I saw underneath it the man who had moved my card at the gala, the one who needed me small in order to feel large. You know, he said, and his voice had cooled by a degree, Most women would be
Gentlemen,
grateful
this
I am
confirms
handling
our
this like a
suspicion.
gentleman.
The route highlighted
catching
here
himself,
matches the
the
financial
warmth
discrepancies
flooding
we
back
found in the
like a
global
tide
markets
covering
data.
a rock. I only mean, let's not turn this into a war. Nobody wins a war. No, I agreed. Nobody wins a war. I did not tell him that I was not planning a war. A war is loud, and even two sides pushing against each other in the open. What I was planning was quieter than that, and far more one-sided. I was simply going to let him finish walking off the cliff he had already
As you can
stepped
see in
over,
Section
and I was going
3,
to have
the transfer
every bit of
occurred
it
on the
paper
15th.
when he landed.
I have the
The whole
documentation
time
right
he talked,
here to
my phone
confirm the
sat
source
face
of the
down on the
funds.
counter behind me, recording. Because Rhode Island lets you record your own conversation, and Lillian had told me to leave it running. I said almost nothing. I let
Please
him build
accept
his
this formal
reasonable little
apology.
house of words,
The
with no one at
disciplinary
all to help
action
him carry
against you
them.
has been fully
And when he
rescinded,
stood to go,
and your
said the
record
part
is
again
cleared.
about keeping it private for both our sakes, I understood that in his mind I was still underway. Still the silent, distant, gone thing his plan required.
I hope this brings you the
He had no
closure you
idea I was
sought.
standing right in front
Know
of him
that I
in the
always
water
admired
with a
your
folder.
courage, even when
He
I
left.
disagreed with your methods.
I watched his taillights
Goodbye,
go down
Commander.
the shore road, and I picked up my phone from the counter, and the recording was still running, and I saved it, and I named it, and I put it in the folder with the rest. The proof came together in the third week. The bank's own fraud unit, once Lillian pointed them at it, did the rest of the work. The notary stamp on the forged equity line belonged to a commission that had lapsed 2 years earlier. The notary's journal, the log every notary is required by law to keep, had no entry at all for February the 14th. There was no record of me appearing, because I had not appeared, because I had been 300
Attention all
miles
hands.
offshore,
Effective
watching a
immediately,
gray
per the
dawn
commander of the
come up
fleet,
over
we will
a gray
alter course
sea.
to the new rendezvous
A
point.
signature
Our
is
mission
a promise.
parameters remain
His
unchanged.
forgery was a promise made in my name that I was standing in a bank in Rhode Island on a February morning, when in fact I was standing a watch in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. And the ocean, it turns out, keeps very good records. The bank sent someone to see me, a fraud investigator named Ramona Vella, careful and unhurried, a woman who had clearly seen a great deal in her career and had grown quietly furious over this particular file. She sat at my grandmother's kitchen table with the documents fanned in front of her, and she asked me to walk her through February the 14th, hour by hour, and I did. The morning watch, the gray dawn, the 300 sailors who could put me in the middle of the ocean. She wrote it all down in a small hand. "I want you to understand what I'm looking at," she said when I had finished. "This is not a gray area, Commander. A document was made to appear as though you had walked into a bank
Don't
and
worry,
borrowed
I'm right here.
$185,000
Everything
against a house
is going
that
to
was
work
yours
out
alone,
fine.
using your name and a dead notary stamp. That is forgery. That is fraud. In my experience, these things are almost never a first offense. They are a habit that finally got written down." She closed her folder. "The bank will make this right on our end. The line will be voided. You will owe nothing. The house
Commander,
is clean.
based on the
But I
findings,
want you to know that
the
we would
court
also
recommends
support a criminal
immediate
referral
disciplinary
if that is
action
ever
under
something
Article
you decide
15.
you want. You would not be doing it alone."
We are
I
continuing to
told her I would
monitor
think
the
about it,
situation
and I meant
closely
it.
and
I
will
did
provide
think about it
updates
for a
as
long
they become
time,
available.
longer than I have admitted to anyone. But that comes later. What stayed with me from that afternoon was the look on her face when she stood to leave. She paused at the door and looked back at the row of my grandmother's ledgers on the shelf. 40 years of a careful woman's accounts in faded cloth spines, and then at me. "Somebody raised you to keep records," she said. It was not a question. He picked the wrong house to lie about. And then the small world did what small worlds always do. Word moved. The defense consulting business Sterling was building depended entirely on a single belief: that he had access, that he knew people, that he had, as he had put it at the gala, a silent partner with a clearance. That partner, in his telling, was me. He had described his own wife, the wife he was quietly robbing, as a knowing participant in his venture, a Navy commander, lending her clearance and her contacts to his little company. It was a lie stacked on top of a theft. And when the two
Looking out
investors
at this
from the Gala
distinguished
learned
assembly,
the truth,
I am
that
reminded
the
of
woman
the
they had
legacy
watched
we
in
are
Admiral
tasked to
honor
uphold.
had never once
A
heard
legacy
of
built on
King Fen
courage,
Strategic,
integrity,
that her
and
name
honor.
and her clearance had been invoked entirely without her knowledge. They did not just walk away. One of them wrote to me. He was mortified. It was a short letter, formal, a little old-fashioned. "Had we understood the truth of the matter, Commander," he wrote, "we would never have sat at that table, and we would certainly never have considered any association with Mr. Kane. Please accept our apologies for whatever discomfort our presence caused you on what should have been, from the first, your evening." The venture Sterling had built on my name came apart the moment my name
As
was pulled
outlined
out
in these
from under
directives,
it.
the
It turned
operational
out there had never
timeline
been
remains
anything else
firm.
holding it
We
up.
will proceed as scheduled, ensuring
The
all
reckoning, when it
protocols are
came,
strictly observed.
was not a courtroom. I know people expect a courtroom, a judge, a gavel, a great and cleansing speech. There was none of that. The reckoning was a conference room with bad carpet and a sweating pitcher of water, a settlement conference, and it was over almost before it had properly begun, because by then the paper did all the talking that needed to be done. Sterling's lawyer, a tired man who I suspect had already taken the full measure of his client, read the forensic
Gentlemen,
report.
this
Nathaniel
confirms our
Brandt had
suspicion.
prepared.
The
He
route
read the bank's
highlighted here
findings
matches
on the
the
forged
financial
and lapsed
discrepancies we
notary.
found in the
He
global
read
markets
the LLC
data.
formation documents with Bianca Fenn's name printed neatly beside his client's. And then Lillian slid one more page across the table, and she read a single text message aloud into that quiet room in her flat, precise voice. She'll be underway. She won't fight it. By the time she surfaces, it's done. The room was very quiet. I made myself look at him then, across the bad carpet and the sweating pitcher.
As you can see
at
in
the man I
Section
had married
3,
in a
the
white
transfer
tent by the
occurred on the
water
15th.
13 years earlier.
I have the
He
documentation
was not
right
looking
here
at
to
me.
confirm the
He was
source of
looking
the
at
funds.
the page in Lillian's hand, at his own words in his own phone, read back to him in a stranger's even voice, and I watched him understand, finally and completely.
Please accept this formal
There was
apology.
no version of this he
The
could talk his
disciplinary
way out
action
of.
against
He
you
had
has
spent
been
his
fully
whole life
rescinded,
believing that
and
if
your
he could just
record
get
is
the
cleared.
room, he could win the room. The room this time was his own text message, and it had made up its mind a long time ago. Counsel, Lillian said.
I hope this brings you the closure you sought.
Reconstruction, the
Know that
bank's
I always
finding on the
admired your
notary, the
courage,
LLC
even when I
documents,
disagreed
and
with
your
your
client's
methods.
own written
Goodbye,
statement
Commander.
of his intent to defraud. My client is not here to destroy anyone today. She is here for what is hers. The house, which was always separate property. The funds that were removed from the joint account. A clean and final dissolution, and her name off of everything with his fingerprints on it. We can do this the short way or the long way, Counsel, but I will tell you now that the long way ends in exactly the same place, with a great deal more sunlight along the road. Sterling's lawyer set the page down and asked for a short recess, and when they came back, the arguing was over. There was nothing
Attention
left to
all
argue.
hands.
You cannot
Effective
argue with the ship's
immediately,
log
per the
and the
commander of
lapsed
the fleet,
notary
we will
and the
alter
man's
course
own
to the
written
new
plan to
rendezvous
rob
point.
his wife
Our mission
while she was off
parameters remain
defending the
unchanged.
country he had spent the evening hiding behind. The forged equity line was voided. The bank erased it as though it had never existed, and my grandmother's house came back to me clean. The $41,000 taken from our joint account was traced and returned. The investor wires unwound. Kane Fenn Strategic, a company built entirely of my money and my name, and 8 months of lies, collapsed into the nothing it had always secretly been. The divorce landed on my terms, quickly, because he had no ground left under him to stand and bargain on. I kept my house, my accounts, my name, and my command. He kept the debts he had run up in his own name, and a company that no longer existed, and a partner who, I am told, did not stay long once there was nothing left to divide. There was one more thing offered to me at the very end. Ramona Vela, the bank's fraud investigator, told me again that the forgery was a
Don't
clear
worry,
crime,
I'm right here.
and that if I wanted, the bank would support
Everything is
criminal
going to
referral
work
the
out
prosecutor.
fine.
Forgery, fraud, real charges, the kind that follow a man for the rest of his life and close doors he does not even know are there. I thought about it for a long time. I want to be honest with you about that because I do not want to pretend to be better than I am. I thought about it seriously. I thought about the Gala, about my
Commander,
little cream card gone
based
from
on the
table,
findings,
about
the court
him telling a
recommends
20-year-old
immediate
sailor in a
disciplinary
white jacket
action
that I would
under
be
Article
standing tonight.
15.
I thought about how easy it would be and how deserved.
We are
and how
continuing
good
to
it might
monitor
feel
the
for about a
situation
week.
closely
And then I
and will
declined.
provide
Not
updates
for
as
him.
they become
Let
available.
me be very clear about that. It was not mercy for him. It was that I had a ship coming and a whole life and my grandmother's house with the ocean outside the window. And I did not want to spend the next 2 years of that life sitting in courtrooms carrying Sterling Kane. I did not want to give him that much of my future. Pressing the charge would have chained me to him for years, hearing after hearing, and I had just spent an enormous amount of effort getting free of him. This was never about winning. It had never once been about winning. It was about being free, and free was a thing I could not be while I was still holding the rope on the other end of the man. So I set the rope down. I let him go, not because he had earned it, but because I had. Months went by. The leaves turned. And the apology I half expected, the porch scene, the rueful knock, the man come at last to say that he was sorry, it never came. Sterling never apologized. Not once, not for the affair, not for the theft, not for the chair. For a while I caught myself waiting for it, the way you keep touching
Looking
the
out at
place
this
where a tooth
distinguished
has been
assembly,
pulled,
I am reminded
feeling
of the
with your
legacy
tongue
we
for
are
the thing
tasked
that
to
is gone,
uphold.
Tessa
A legacy
noticed,
built on
because Tessa
courage,
notices.
integrity, and
She
honor.
came out to the house one cold October afternoon, and we sat on the porch my grandmother built, with mugs of tea going cold in our hands, watching the water do what it has always done. "You keep waiting for the part where he says he is sorry," she said. It was not a question. Tessa does not really do questions. "I did," I said. "I stopped." "When?" I thought about it honestly before I answered. The day I stopped waiting was the day I actually got the house back. Not on paper. On paper, I had it back weeks before. But the day I stopped waiting for him to feel bad about any of it.
As outlined in these directives, the operational timeline remains
here's
firm.
the thing I learned.
We will
On the
proceed as
far
scheduled,
side of all
ensuring
of it,
all
the
protocols
thing I
are
would want
strictly
you to take
observed.
from this story, if you take anything at all, an apology from him was never going to be the thing that healed it. I had made his remorse into the last lock on my own freedom, and as long as I stood there waiting for it, he still held the key to that one lock. The very moment I stopped needing him to be sorry, there was nothing of mine left in his hands at all. Not the house, not the money, not my name, and not, any longer, my peace. His mother sent one
Gentlemen,
note,
this
stiff
confirms
and
our suspicion.
self-justifying, more
The route
concerned with the
highlighted
family's
here matches the
reputation
financial
than with anything that
discrepancies
had
we
actually
found in the
happened
global
to a
markets
single human
data.
being. I read it once, and I did not answer it. And I did not lose 1 minute of sleep over the fact that I had not. Bianca Fenn vanished into the small world that now knew exactly what she was, which is its own slow sentence and no concern of mine. I gathered the few things of Sterling's that were still in the house into a single box, and I sent it to him with 2 plain lines, and I called a locksmith and had him change the locks my grandmother installed.
As you can see in Section 3, the transfer occurred on the 15th.
I have decided, is not
I have the
what people think it
documentation
is.
right here to
Grace is
confirm
not
the source of the
opening the door and
funds.
letting someone back in who never asked to be let in. Sometimes Grace is closing the door all the way and doing it softly instead of slamming it. I closed my grandmother's
Please
door
accept
softly.
this formal apology.
Then I turned around and looked
The
at the whole
disciplinary
quiet
action
house that
against
was
you
mine
has
again,
been fully
and
rescinded,
the ocean going on
and your
outside
record
it,
is cleared.
as it had for 100 years, and I started getting ready for a ship. The change of command came on a bright, cold morning in late autumn. There is an old and formal
I hope
shape
this
to a
brings you
change
the
of
closure
command,
you sought.
and I had stood in the ranks
Know that
for
I
other
always
people's
admired your
100
courage,
times,
even when I
but you do
disagreed
not
with your
truly
methods.
understand the shape of it until
Goodbye,
it is your
Commander.
own. The boatswain's pipe, the reading of the orders. The salute passed from one officer to another like a lit candle handed carefully in the wind. The crew in their dress uniforms, rank on the flight deck. Faces I was still learning. 300 people whose lives would now be, in a real and daily way, my responsibility. The harbor behind us, the flag snapping in a stiff wind off the water, the families in rows of white chairs. I thought, standing there, about the Gala, about the little cream card with my name on it, gone from a table, about a man who had looked at this
Attention
uniform
all
and seen an
hands.
outfit, a
Effective
costume,
immediately,
a thing
per
to
the
be
commander of
embarrassed
the
about in
fleet,
front
we
of
will
people
alter
who
course
mattered.
to the new rendezvous point.
And I thought about
Our
how the
mission
people who
parameters
actually
remain
mattered,
unchanged.
the ones standing in the ranks in front of me now, had never needed a program or an admiral to tell them what a command meant. They already knew. They had given their trust to the office, and now they were handing it to me, watch by watch, hand over hand. Rear Admiral Harlan Wexford presided. Tessa was in the front row, and she did not cry, which for Tessa was itself a form of ceremony. There was no one missing from that deck who should have been there, and there was no one there who should not have been. And I want you to understand what a rare and good thing that is, to stand somewhere that matters and look out at all the faces and find that every single one of them belongs. I read my orders aloud, the formal words that transfer a warship from one officer to another. I saluted the officer I was relieving. I turned to the assembled crew and I said the 4 words a naval officer waits a whole career to earn the right to say.
Don't worry, I'm right
I have
here.
to watch. And I
Everything is going to
did.
work
For the
out
first time
fine.
in longer than I could remember, there was nothing behind me on fire. There was only the ship under my feet and the open sea in front of me and the work. The good, hard, clean work of taking her out past the breakwater and into the weather where I have always felt most like myself. If my story has taught you anything, I hope it is this. There will be people in your life who try to move your car,
Commander,
who seat someone
based
else
on the
where
findings,
you belong, and
the
then
court
tell you to stand
recommends
in the corner
immediate
and be
disciplinary
gracious about
action
it.
under
They will
Article
do it in front of
15.
others, because the shame is meant to be the point of it.
We are
And you
continuing
will
to
feel
monitor
in
the
that moment
situation
that you have only
closely
2 choices,
and will provide
to make a scene
updates as
or
they
to
become
disappear.
available.
You do not have to choose either one. You can stand still and hold your dignity and count. The truth about who you are does not need you to shout it across a room. It has a way of walking across that room on its own, in its own good time, and standing everyone up on their feet. Integrity outlasts humiliation. It always has, and it always will. The room that truly matters, in the end, always finds out who you really are, and the ones who try to erase you are left standing there doing arithmetic that will never, ever come out right for them. If this story moved you, or reminded you of your own, Please share it with someone who needs to hear it tonight. Someone who has been made to feel small by a person who should have been the one lifting them up. Tell me in the comments about a time you held your dignity when it would have been so much easier to break. I read every one of them, and I am always moved by your courage. And if you would like more stories about courage and justice and hope, stories about ordinary people who refuse to become bitter no matter what is taken from them,
looking out at this distinguished assembly, I am reminded of the legacy we are tasked to uphold.
It means
a
more
legacy
than you will
built
ever
on
know.
courage, integrity, and honor.